Josh Prince was the one who helped FOAC take that on, and he won, because I think he usually wins. And next time around, he will win for appellate court. You know, someone just texted me from the Westmoreland Tribune Review, a letter to the editor, and I just looked at it on my phone, and the title is, "God is the Problem." I mean, just what is happening in our society is absolutely incredible. So I got my notes here, which I'm always adding and crossing out. So we will see if I can follow these and put this all together, because I constantly get thoughts. So I wrote a letter to the editor, and that just was in the paper last week, talking about is the establishment Republicans conspiring against Patriot candidates. Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, I'll tell you, you mentioned that I ran for governor, and that was 2 years ago, and the Westmoreland Republican Committee gave me zero support, and I was a committee member at the time, no more, of Westmoreland County, zero support to run for governor, and because I am more Trump than Trump. Matter of fact, when my kids discovered him, you know, my daughter texted me in 2015 and said, "Dad, Trump is you." And then my son replied, "Dad's tougher than Trump." So, and that's the way they view me in Westmoreland, and they don't like me one bit. But they went as far as they do a Reagan dinner there in the county, and I'm a committee member, and they know I'm going to be there. I asked, can I hand out my stuff and campaign a little bit? And they said, yeah, fine. They had two governor candidates come in, Jason Ritchie and Dr. Zama, and speak, knowing I'm going to be there, and they don't ask me. And that was done deliberately. And that's how they are. It is war, and I'm going to get into that. So, are they conspiring against us? I say absolutely. And my belief is that the PA, GOP, and the Commonwealth Foundation developed a policy to stop Patriot candidates. And this was done after the Mastriano loss, because he lost by 16%, and they said these people can't win, and we now, we have to go back to having RINOs and people that are willing to cozy up to liberals. We'd rather have that. Even Americans for Prosperity's Jeff Yass has offered $10 million to find a candidate that can beat Trump. Well, since my son said I'm tougher than Trump, he might as well give it to me. Maybe I could beat him. So, not that I'd want to. So, now let me tell you a little bit about running for Westmoreland County Commissioner. So, it's almost incredible when you follow this. The end of January, I put my press release out. It was in the paper that I'm running for Westmoreland County Commissioner. People said, well, you can't just jump right into governor. You haven't won anything yet. So I said, well, I guess I'm not like Trump. So I'll run for county commissioner. 3 weeks later, the Republican committee advances their May meeting to early March, for no other reason than to endorse candidates against me. At the point of the meeting, right, I'm the only candidate that announced. The incumbents hadn't announced. No other person had announced. And they had a meeting to endorse the incumbents, not knowing if they're actually running. So, of course, they come in with 124 proxy votes. That's one for every other person at the meeting. You know that's not possible. I was told the town supervisor came in with a stack of them, which is not allowed. 3 years ago, when I ran for party chair for the county, they came in with 108 proxy votes. Again, you know, you got 220 people there, and every other one of them gave you a proxy against me. That's another thing that has to change. Proxy votes are worse than voter harvesting by the Democrats, and they have full control of committees. You cannot make any inroads into committees. You have to stick with your patriot groups, because you cannot do anything about committees. They control it 1,000%. Matter of fact, I was told when I ran for county chair, you got less than a 10% chance of winning. because they knew they controlled that process. So they go and do that. They have their endorsement meeting, and they endorse the incumbents. And by the way, the one incumbent said he was going to give 60% of his salary to charity, gave nothing. In the process of auditing his financials, I discovered $30,000 in in-kind contributions he didn't report. He's now claiming he sent an amended form in. We'll see if that's true. And I knew of 2 checks for $7,000 that he cashed or deposited, and he didn't report those either. I made that all very clear. I sent 70,000 mailers out the week of the election, so every Republican should have known it, and I just barely lost to him. But the Attorney General has taken over the investigation and said they will look into it. So we'll see where that goes. I may end up county commissioner, but we'll find out. So then after the endorsement, they go and sue me to get me off the ballot. I did not file the financial with the commissioner's office. And they said you had to do that. Turns out you don't have to do that. Not in county races. You have to do that in state races. So they took me to the local court. I won. They appealed it to the appellate court. A panel of 3 appellate judges looked at it. I won. Figured it's over. Nope. Took me to the PA Supreme Court. I won. So now you get to the day of the election. They have a slate card that they hand out, right? The slate card, it says endorsed candidates. And believe me, they had 5-10 times more people working polls than I did. And we're going to talk about that. They're handing them out saying, these are your Republican candidates. Not saying endorsed. We made it easy for you. These are your Republican candidates. And people took that, looked at it and says, oh, I just vote off of this. So they deceived the public at the poll. Myself and another candidate are Republicans. We are strong Republicans, but they weren't told that at the poll. So that's what they did locally to try to stop me for no other reason than I am a true Trump candidate, MAGA candidate, and they don't want that. So I had 5 committee members that helped me, and the Westmoreland chair, Bill Bretz, kicked them off the committee even though they're elected members. You've probably read that the 9 in Cumberland County were basically kicked off or punished by Lou Capozzi. Joe Gale in Montgomery County, he lost. They got a businessman to run against him, and they ran a campaign. These are Republicans doing this. And Joe ran for governor with me. He lost. MAGA candidates in Washington, Armstrong, and Fayette County, they lost. Josh Prince, I'm glad I just spoke to him because he calmed me down a little bit. I was going to go off on Lawrence Tavis, so he calmed me down a little bit. I'll only go off on him a little bit. So, Josh writes a letter to Lawrence Tavis, and he does his article, The Death of the PA Republican Party by Its Own Hand. And he asked Tavis not to retaliate against committee members. The state bylaws only refer to the November general election, and many of the Republicans are going to decide not to vote because of what's going on, and that's a loser. We have to vote, because that's a vote for Democrats if we do that. County committees must be consistent with the state committee. But here's the problem, and this is where I was going to go off on Lawrence, was I believe that Lawrence and the Commonwealth Foundation are created this policy to stand against MAGA candidates, or at least in Tavis's position, he's complicit with it. He's not doing it, he's going along with it, but the strings are pulled by the Commonwealth Foundation. That's my belief. And if you read anything by Matt Brule of the Commonwealth Foundation, especially after the primaries in May, he was absolutely beaming at the losses of the experienced judges that Josh has spoken about. He's highly critical of Trump and Mastriano, and you can just see where he stands. And I'll give you an example. I think the axis of evil in this state and in our party is Tavis and Brule, and I'm being nice. If you look at the election 2 years ago, I'm in Butler for the debate I'm running for governor, the lieutenant governors and the state senators are debating, and I'm watching the lieutenant governor race debate, and Commonwealth offers $1.5 million to Carrie Del Rosso, and she's in my county, I know her. She gets taken apart by one of the female candidates. I don't remember her name, it was initials, LG something. She's an attorney also, and just takes her apart on stage. And at the break before the closing comments, Carrie Del Rosso goes home. Doesn't even give her closing comments. But she wins for the Republican side because she knew she had $1.5 million behind her. What does she care about a debate in Butler with 200 people there? You know? And what does Carrie Del Rosso do right now? She's the PA representative for Dominion voting machines. And that's their person that they endorse and just love because she's controllable. And she'll do anything for that endorsement and the money, obviously. So that's what we get from our party and from the Commonwealth Foundation. Brule gives millions of dollars to controllable candidates. And the funny thing is they got no problem with the proxy votes that I just mentioned. But
with Mr. John Ventry, who has really been the tip of the sphere as far as trying to get power back to we the people by, guess what? Getting involved in local politics and also having his own weekly newsletter called Never Socialist. So let's ask you, John, what's going on these days and how can people become more empowered?
Well, you got to get involved. And, that was part of my speech here is patriots, they like to go to events like this. They like to go to rallies. They like to hear powerful speeches and then they go home. But if you want to beat them, you've got to take their tactics and get involved. And those two, actually it's three tactics. You got to donate, right? But you got to go out and get them petition signatures after you identify who your patriot candidates are. And then you got to work the polls. I mean, I know for a fact I was just beaten at the polls with the handouts. Even though I mailed 70,000 flyers to every Republican, what they handed out at the poll deceived them. So we've got to use their tactics. We can't just rally and that's it. That's what we need to do.
It's put up or shut up time, isn't it?
Absolutely. But, patriots, they don't shut up. They don't understand how to win. And we've got to teach them that. And we're at a tipping point right now in the country and locally. I mean, I see, Southwest PA is different than, let's say, Southeast PA. That's God's country out there, and it's changing. I mean, the progressives, not just Democrats, progressives have won Allegheny County. And these are the worst of the worst. It's the squad. The state rep out there, the new one, has been described as AOC times 10. And Fetterman came from there. I mean, I'm seeing a change here. But the thing is, I see Republicans who we elected, whether they're school board members, state reps, they don't side with us. They side with the Democrat because their MO, just the way they're built, is to turn the other cheek.
A couple of years ago, we got involved with becoming committee people. That was the advice back then. Become a committee person, kind of take over the direction of the GOP. We do have quite a few here in our county. Mm-hmm. And now we see that there's a pushback against the Patriot movement as far as trying to make up these illegal allegations that in the primary, okay, you're supposed to support the Republican candidate, which is nonsense. It only happens when, for the election, you clam it down, you go with the candidate, that's what you do. And what would you say to people who, because our advice has always been, get involved locally, get involved. So they're pushing back so we don't get involved.
Right.
So what is your advice to them?
Well, we don't need the Republican committee. We don't. I mean, if you go around the state, and that's what I did when I ran for governor, the groups that got together in Lehigh Valley, Berks County, Lancaster, Butler, they were huge. They outnumbered the committees. We don't need them, to be honest. And they're taking their rules And they're not even following their own rules, the committee people. They're doing whatever they can right now to get rid of state committee people who are MAGA, and then just committee members who helped unendorsed candidates. And, we can sue them, we can find a group that'll give us some funding and all that, but I'll be honest with you. When I campaign again next, I believe I'll run for government again, I could care less if I go to committees. I'm going to all 100 Patriot groups, and we outnumber them. And how do I know that? We elected Trump.
That's right. You heard it here, folks. So we're here to network good people like John Ventures, who hasn't just walked the walk. He talked the talk, but he's walking the walk, and is an inspiration to us all. And you know what? There is such a thing as write-in. There is such a thing of power to the people. And if we win enough, they can't steal enough.
Right.